Hello, first grade. Today we are going to be working on Chapter 10, Lesson 1. So I need you to make sure that you have your math book sitting in front of you and a pencil. And I need you to turn to page 711. That's 711. So if you need time to get there, pause the video and unpause it when you're ready to get started. All right. So today we are going to be starting to talk about a different kind of shape. Last chapter, we talked all about two-dimensional shapes, or shapes that you can just draw on a piece of paper. Well, today we're going to be talking about three-dimensional shapes. And I want you to think of if you've ever heard the term 3D before. 3D means the same thing as three-dimensional. So think, when have you heard that term 3D before? Maybe it was for the movies. Maybe it was for something on TV. So 3D means that, like if you would go to a 3D movie, you would put on a special set of glasses and the images would then pop out at you. Well, guess what? You are surrounded by three-dimensional objects all around you right this very second. Everything that you can touch and pick up and hold and throw is a three-dimensional object. So let's talk about some specific 3D objects. Go ahead and turn your page. So three-dimensional shapes are solid shapes. Cubes and rectangular prisms have bases and vertices. Okay, well, we know that term vertices. What does that mean? Remind yourself. What is a vertex or a vertice? That's the corners. So the corners mean the same thing. Those are still called vertices or a vertex. The faces are where it's different because now instead of just having a square on a piece of paper, I have other sides to my shape. So the face is this whole side, this darker green part right here of my shape that I can see. So let's see how many faces each one of these 3D objects has. So let's look at a cube. How many faces does this cube have? Well, if I were able to sit in front of you and give you one, then you would be able to see that there are 6 different faces on the cube. So go ahead and trace that number 6. It's a very important number for you to remember. So there are 6 faces on a cube. And then how many vertices? Well, if I would go through and I would count all of the points, I could see here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side. And then if I count the ones in the back, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 vertices or corners. So go ahead and trace your number 8 for vertices. All right, now let's look at a rectangular prism. A rectangular prism is called that because the sides that you see, these long sides, those are rectangles. So it's called a rectangular prism. So let's see, how many faces does it have? Well, it has the 4 around if I would flip it over. So 1, 2, the back 3, the bottom 4, and then the sides 5 and 6. So 6 different faces. So trace that number 6. And then how many vertices does it have? Well, we're going to count all the corners. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I count the other side. 5, 6, 7, 8. So it has 8 vertices. I'm noticing something about these two shapes and the numbers of bases and vertices that they have. What do you notice about them? They are the same. They both have 6 faces and they both have 8 vertices. So first grade, how do I know the difference? Well, I want you to look at them. What do you notice about this face on the rectangular prism and this face on the cube? What shapes are they? Well, if I look at the cube, I can see that this green face is a, say it out loud, it's a square. all of the faces on a cube are a square. Every single one of them, all 6 of them are squares. They're all exactly the same size. But if I look at this rectangular prism, I can see that this face is a rectangle. So is this one, and so is the one behind it and underneath. Those are all rectangles. But the 2 sides that I see here, those are squares. Do you see that? They're a little bit distorted, but if I could have you hold one in front of you, you would see it was a square. So that's the difference. Rectangular prisms have rectangles in them, and cubes are all squares. So now let's keep practicing. These numbers are very important for you to remember. You have to memorize them, which means you have to remember them in your brain forever and always. So we're going to practice writing them a lot. Are you ready? Number 1. So this is what shape? Is it a cube or a rectangular prism? Well, which one does it look like? Also, what shape do you see in this face? Well, I see a rectangle, so that can only mean that this is a rectangular prism. So go ahead and circle that. And now that I know it's a rectangular prism, I can decide and I can tell you how many faces and how many vertices. So let's look back to help us. How many faces and how many vertices? Well, I see it has 6 faces and it has 8 vertices. All right, number 2, what shape is this? Is it a cube or rectangular prism? Go ahead and circle whatever you think. All right, so if it was me, I'm looking at this shape and I'm seeing, oh, that's a square, and all of these are also squares, so that must mean this is a cube. And then I have to think, okay, cube, I know it has how many faces and how many vertices? It has 6 faces and 8 vertices. Make sure your paper matches mine. Now I'm going to clear my page and we're going to move to the problem solving page. All right, here we go. Number 8 says, what shape are the faces of this cube of cheese? So it's asking you what shape are the faces. Remember, the face is another word for the whole side. So what shape are they? Well, if it's a cube, what shape are all of the faces? They are squares. So let's write squares on our line. All right. Number 9 says, if you put these shapes together, what 3-dimensional shape do you make? Circle the name of the shape and explain how you know to a friend. Okay, so let's look at the shapes that we have here. What shape is this? Well, I see all 4 sides are the same, so that's a square. Okay, so I have 2 squares. And then let's see, this one, I notice I have 2 short and 2 long sides, so that is a rectangle. So I have 2 squares and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles. So let me think. Which one is it? Is it a cube or a rectangular prism if I put all of these shapes together? Well, here's your hint. I see a rectangle here. So that can only mean that this is going to be a rectangular prism. So go ahead and circle that. In order for this to be a cube, all 6 shapes would have had to have been squares, just like this one up here. All right, let's go back to your independent practice page, and I'm going to explain it to you. So you're going to look at numbers 3 and 4. You're going to circle which shape it is. Is it a cube or a rectangular prism? And then you're going to write how many faces and how many vertices. For number 5, it says circle the shape of the faces that make each object. So you need to decide what shape are the faces of this object. You're going to circle it over here. There's only one. What shape are the faces of this object? Circle it over here. There's only one. And then down here with number 7, circle the object that can be made from these faces. So you have 6 of the same shape. Which of these objects can be made from that? So go ahead and finish that. And once you're finished, you are all done with math today. Fabulous job, first grade.